Welcome to Impact and Influence, the podcast for current and emerging leaders to build on leadership capability, sustainability, and purpose. This series opens the door to what's possible to build a life in leadership by design, not by default. Brought to you by Regrowth Consultancy, powered by Flick It Over. Flick It Over is a leading electronic software platform. Flick It Over provides industry-specific solutions to improve process, client experience, and efficiencies. Make your document delivery and workflow seamless with Flick It Over. Welcome to another episode of Impact and Influence, joined today by the gorgeous Virginia Brookes. How are you, Virginia?
I'm very well, thank you, Kylie.
Now, coming to us from WA today.
I am. I'm back in Exmouth this week. So I was in Sydney last week.
Didn't know if you're in HQ in Sydney or in your other office in WA.
No, Sydney was last week, WA this week.
For those that are listening that don't know Virginia, which I would find very hard to believe, but we've got a few in the UK and America subscribe listening to this too now, Virginia, we will introduce you as the only recruiting partner that people should be talking to in the property sector in Australasia. But would you mind giving everybody a little bit of a rundown on your business and what it is that you do? And for our listeners, don't turn off. We're not just flogging a product here. We've got lots of learnings today about you being more competitive and Virginia sharing in her leadership journey. But I think it's really important to understand who the speakers are that we're bringing you. So Virginia, please share with us a little bit about you and your company.
I went into a real estate office at 16 and did the old school way of advancing in real estate, which was starting in reception and then moving into property officer and property management, finally BDM and head of departments here and in London. So I did a 3-year stint in London too. After I'd had enough of property management, I wanted to do something a little different after 13 years and moved into real estate recruitment. So I started off with another company, spent 12 months there, and then decided that I didn't love how things were being done. So 20 years ago this year, I set up Resolver Recruitment. So we've been going 20 years.
Congratulations.
I know. My goodness. 2006 on my dining room table, it all started. And now I've got a team of, I've got 5 in Sydney, 2 in the Philippines, and me in the business. So this year is another year of growth after a rocky few years. And so, yeah, excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, Virginia and I have known each other for a long period of time. We are going to have a robust discussion today about all things recruitment, but also leadership and where you see us go wrong and where you see us go right, I think, when we're recruiting in real estate, because some of us do it incredibly well, but sometimes in real estate, we can be a little bit reactive. And I don't think that's good from a leadership position. But let's just start with what it's like out there at the moment. So what's the sector going through? What are you seeing?
There is a lot of movement in the sector at the moment. I think because there's been some confidence in the market, people are more confident in making a move at the minute. We're still seeing mass exodus from property management.
Are we?
And those moving into, yeah.
Leaving industry or just moving to another office?
Industry,
okay.
Leaving industry. So what's made it really hard there is the licensing change for property managers. So we're seeing a lot of, in particular, working parents who, yes, they've been given 4 years to finish the certificate of registration or going to your class 2, but 4 years is not a lot of amount of time when you've got 2 little kids at school, you are trying to hold down a full-time job, and then you're expected to get a class 2 license, which is not cheap to obtain either.
So employers aren't offering to pay for that to retain people?
No, not always.
Stop it.
Not always at all.
Okay, interesting, given how hard it is to find a good property manager.
I know, and the flexibility around it still, it makes me pull my hair out to think that people don't see the value in a working parent who has to leave at 3 o'clock for school pickup and then can be back online at 7 o'clock at night. And I see the ones that do it so well, and then agencies just thumb their nose at it. And that also goes, for marketing and, real estate has got a lot of women in it, which is nice now, but still a lot in support roles as well. And women go on to have babies and still employers are not very understanding of that. And I feel like we're still missing out on a massive part of the industry going just purely because we don't offer flexibility.
It's really interesting, isn't it? I think we talk about understanding your customer to provide them with the best experience. And you and I have had conversations before about how your team is your internal customer. So, what are the client experience expectations and loyalty programs you have for your team to keep them coming back for more? So it's understanding what they want, when they want it, and how best to deliver it. Does anyone, when they brief you in as a recruiter, when they're giving you obviously their budget, and they give you the job description, how do they find out, or how do they engage with you to find out what's important to the person they're recruiting?
A lot of the time in real estate, it's still all about the employer.
Okay.
And that's the problem, is it's still about the employer. And I think now when candidates are going to an interview, they're interviewing the employer just as much as they are interviewing, the employers interviewing the candidate.
Oh, more so probably. Yep, with the talent pool the way it is.
It's competitive. It's competitive, right? I still have people saying it's Monday to Friday, no work from home, in the office, at the desk. And it's just not the way of the world anymore. And so a lot of people are losing good people just purely through that. A lot of principals, we don't get to where we get to by reducing hours, or, we're very much type A personalities that drive hard. And I think we've got to remember that not everybody is the same as that. And if you're employing people that just want to drive like that, you're missing out on the people that are pretty much your 8:30 to 5:30 people that don't want to go over and above anymore. They're just your worker bees, and that's okay.
I think it's really interesting. Like, it's a juggle, right? So if you're a principal listening and they're sitting there going, but you don't understand, Carl, so I've got this huge amount of rent. My culture's being affected because people aren't back in the office and still working from home. I think it's understanding the DNA or the personality type of the person that can perform at home. And if we just use DISC as an example, right? So it's commonly accepted is high I's do not work well from home. So anyone that's got to be around people, they thrive on that energy. They love to have a bit of a chat at work. Those people will not perform at home. So are you seeing many people, and I'm big on psychometric testing, are many people bringing in the science of the psychometric testing or personality profiling in to help them make an informed decision for a mutually long-term beneficial relationship?
In a nutshell, no. We push it. We talk to people about it, but they don't. A lot of people, agents in particular, and business owners like to think that they always get it right. And too often we go off gut feel, and you're hiring someone like you. And I think I've done it with all my team. They've all done discs just because it allows you to work out how people work. Do you know what I mean? It helps you understand someone a little bit better. I know my EA or my GM now, and I did it. And I'm high D, high I. She's high S, high C. We are polar opposites, but that's what makes it work so well. And we've worked together now for 7 years. She's probably a little bit more I these days, but we have worked well because we're opposites. And I think sometimes people are so focused on employing people that they like, or people that they could potentially be friends with, people where they're hiring just on culture, but you actually don't really know what somebody's like to have in your culture until you've got them there, right? But you've got to have the traits of the role that work better than just the personality fit. So I think I'm a big believer in DISC. I think DISC is great, but I couldn't tell you the last person that requested it.
Yeah, guys, if you're listening, I mean, it's such an expensive exercise to get wrong and stuff up. So we think about the missed opportunities of, of a BDM or a salesperson not being able to convert. We think about a person that can't apply themselves to discipline and structure, have a high sense of urgency, all these things that we can test for and put some science behind the decision. So we think about, God, onboarding Virginia, how long does that take to do it properly? And the hours that go into it and the cost of it. And like I said, the missed opportunity. Guys, it's such a small investment. And I think it shows the candidate, wouldn't you agree, that you're serious about their learning and development to find out what their superpowers are and what might be holding them back. I don't understand why people wouldn't do it.
And it's not expensive to do, right? When you look at the cost of a bad hire and the impact in your business, the disruption in your business, the disruption to you, your team, your clients, I don't think, what is it now these days? I think it's like $300. It's not expensive.
There's plenty of platforms out there. I use Talogy, there's Myers-Briggs, there's heaps of them, but I think they range from there's the Povo pack from $49.95 right through to the senior leadership ones that are $500 and $600. But I think it'd be worthwhile reaching out to Virginia and I afterwards if anyone was interested. It really does change your recruitment process, but more importantly, you don't get it wrong as many times. Virginia, is the candidate pool any better at the moment? Or is there still a low supply of quality candidates?
I think that the talent pool is the best that I've seen in a while.
Wow.
Yeah, the best that we've seen in a while. For us anyway, sometimes we're giving clients 2 or 3 options, which is really unusual. So you're always going to have your hard to fill roles. But, we did 3 property managers last week, which is unheard of for us in a while. Yeah.
How long are you working with those candidates before you place them? How long are they looking for?
2 of them were only about a week.
Mm-hmm.
And just getting them into the right role, because everybody is always looking for a good PM, right? So you can fill that one. There's been some good, the only one that obviously is more difficult is sales. Sales agents are notoriously more difficult to source. And I think sometimes that's done that a lot of the time through relationships with principals.
Absolutely.
Understanding your local marketplace and connecting. You don't all have to be enemies, even though you're in the same marketplace. So I think having those good relationships with being able to pick up the phone and ask someone about a listing that they've had is it's the greatest way to be able to find your own sales agents is by your own network, because a sales agent effectively wants to work for a principal or a brand, and that's the only reason that they move.
So if there's a few more property managers are out there looking at the moment, what are you finding the hardest role to fill at the moment is? Because I've got about 7 sales agents looking for EA admins at the moment. I have given them all your number, but is that something that there's much talent getting around at the present time?
There's still a couple. We've had a few good people making a move. I think we placed one of those last week. So they're being picky though as well. When you're getting sales associates coming alongside an agent, agents a lot of the time have reputations. And sometimes as soon as we say it's with this agent, they will shut it down. We were offered a role a couple of weeks ago and we just can't place with that agent, because the reputation is not great. The longevity is not great. So we make sure that we really pick our clients. And I think that's what's happening now in that PA piece as well, is they are being really fussy about who they join.
I think it's a good point, because we do get a lot of sales agents that run EBUs listen to this podcast. So if you think that leadership is not for you and it's not relevant to you, then I would say that it's going to be a pretty hard road if you can't find a good business unit manager or sales administrator, given what Virginia's just said. So investing your time in leadership and ensuring that you're doing everything you can to retain and be competitive with recruitment is important. So on that fact, from a leadership positioning piece, Virginia, so if I'm listening to this and I'm a business owner, what are the top 2 or 3 things that I could be doing to make myself more competitive in the recruitment space?
Flexibility. Mm-hmm. I'm a big advocate for women staying in real estate, and we've got some really, really good women who have, we're also getting to a stage where we've got aging parents as well. And I just think, number one, be flexible. Just because a lot of your vendors want to be spoken to after they've finished work for the day as well.
Yes.
So somebody that starts maybe at 10 a.m. and then works through till 6 p.m. is a better option than somebody that's starting at 8:30 just to your 5:30. Always be flexible in times, because the world is open now, I think, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at night. So especially in the real estate world, where you're dealing with people who can't always, it's their home and it's what they're buying, but they can't always talk to you between 9 and 5, because that's when they're doing their full-time job as well. So I think number one is absolutely flexibility around hours. I'm not saying let everybody work from home full-time, because I know that doesn't work, but to give someone the option of 1 or 2 days work from home if the work is being done, and you could do that after probation as well. A lot of people are quite flexible to do that 3 months and really get everything under their belt and do it. And salaries are competitive.
Hugely competitive at the moment.
Sydney's an expensive place to live, and good people can go and work in other industries for great salaries. So we've got to make sure that we're remaining competitive with salaries. So I think that's the big two still is flexibility and salary.
And Virginia, how do we know? I mean, obviously we do a lot of benchmarking with our accountant, with our clients around salaries. How do you know as a principal if you're competitive, or what's the best way to go about that?
You just need to have a look, speak to a recruiter. Always will plug that. But, go on to Seek. Just spend half an hour on Seek and just look at the other ads on there. I was with a client last week. I was actually doing some stuff in construction and looking for a site manager. And we went on and there are 800 jobs for site managers in Sydney. So just go into it. Seek's an easy one for anybody to go and have a look at. Just put in your suburb, the role that you're looking to fill, and have a look at what comes up. And I think that's where you can really see what you're competing against.
And how important is it to have a position description or a JD when you go to a recruiter or when you advertise for a job?
When you advertise for a job, you have to have one. With a recruiter, we help our clients put that together because a lot of them just don't. I think I want them to do this. I think I want them to do that. Well, when you're interviewing somebody, they want to know what they're doing. Clarity. And I'm also very big, though, on, sometimes you'll meet a person and you can mold a bit more of a role around that person. But you've got to have your top 10 things that are non-negotiable that you need to get done that you can say within that role.
Now, guys, Virginia's got some great tools and templates on her website that can help you in this space as well. So reach out there and have a look, but just pick up the phone and give her a call and talk to her about how to be more competitive, or salaries and wages and benchmarking, and making sure that you're in 2026 to start with.
They like to still have them down a little bit, believe you me. And if there's commissions, I will throw in, because a lot of people like to do incentives as well, especially in that EA space, that EBU space. Make sure it's realistic. Like, there's no point in putting your goals and dreams in there, which we all have, but you've got to make those commissions realistic, or all you're going to do is create unhappiness for someone who, once they get in there,
buyer's
realizes
remorse.
that, they're really unattainable.
It's really interesting, actually. We did a survey in a business that we sold last year, and one of the things that came through in the survey was that out of 900 and something people that we surveyed, or just shy of 900, 70% had been promised a commission or incentive that didn't come off. And that was one of the driving forces in them leaving. So I think it's really, really, really good advice.
Well, it's the trust piece, isn't it?
It is.
And
you erode that
trust.
It's the foundation of a relationship.
Yeah, any relationship.
Virginia, let's talk about leadership, because we are here for a leadership podcast. So thank you for giving us a bit of a around the traps on what's happening with recruitment out there and where we could probably improve. Is from a leadership position, and you've been in business, you said 20 years this year, and no doubt you've made some great leadership decisions and you've made some epic fails that you could learn from. Would you like to share any of the wins or the learnings?
The learnings, I think, early on was employing people that I liked, or people that were very much like me. They were definitely the ones that potentially didn't work out. Employing friends was the other one. Friends and family, never again. I learnt that one up the hard way. The bits that I've done well is probably bringing people in and then giving them the freedom to excel themselves. So not micromanaging anymore, teaching people the basics of how you run and how you want things to be done, but then giving them the freedom to run. And I think that's where you have the most success is by letting people be, letting them forge their own way without micromanaging them, but also being their constant pillar of support. I quite often on the phone at 7 o'clock at night where they've had a bad day or a deal's gone wrong. And I think as a good leader, you've got to be accessible to your team.
Accessibility is incredibly important. It's always something that I'm trying to work on all the time because we are so busy. But if you're not accessible for your people, then someone else will be. So I think it's that, summarizing the end of the day and what were the wins and how do we help each other. But you still want them to have radical ownership of self. So it's a bit of a juggle, isn't it, around not micromanaging, but having that trust and not being a control freak to empower people to just get on, use their brain and use their gift as to why you hired them and be. Have you ever struggled with that?
Yes and no. And I think my biggest learning and my biggest change was a cancer diagnosis in February 2022, 4 years ago. And for a couple of months, work consumed me and I was just all in. But there came a point that I had to let go, and I had to let that business run under the leadership of our ops manager. I had to let it run with the team that I'd set up, because for a little while, I just wasn't accessible. I was still on the phone, but I wasn't in the business. And I think then we had some incredible months because they all stepped into their own leadership, I think, where they were really controlling their desk and they wanted to do well for me because I'd looked after them. And I think that they all lifted hugely. They wanted to make me proud, and they did. And I think that's the biggest lesson is if you look after your people and you treat them well, you can also be an inspiration to them. And that's what changed. I think for the last 4 years for me has changed majorly.
So changed your leadership style?
100%.
What is your leadership style?
My leadership style, I'm definitely not aggressive. I'm probably too friendly sometimes, but I also then have very good relationships with my team. I've also learned not to let everybody in, which I think is a big lesson for people. You need to have that little bit of arm's length. They can't all be your immediate family. And I think I did that wrong. I don't take things as personally anymore because sometimes things just don't work out and we don't get it right. And I've realized now as well that I can't change other people. So
you
other
can't
people
take out what nature put in.
Be. No, I've got to let them be as they want to be. And I've said to people before, I can't change the job that you're in per se. I can help you with your mindset, but I can't change things dramatically. And I think that's your job as a leader, is to try and, as you get older, you want to impart onto the next generation coming through, I think. And that's probably what I look at more now than anything is I don't want to be working like I'm working in 5 years' time. I want my life to look a little bit different. And I think once you've got that end goal in mind, your leadership becomes a little bit different because you're thinking about a succession plan rather than always being in rapid growth mode where you don't have an end date. Well, and I think for me, turning 50 this year, things have changed.
Do you know what? It's that purpose. What am I being purposeful about? What's my intent? I don't always start with the end in mind. I absolutely love that. It's a good conversation to have with your people too, I think, as a leader. Virginia, you drive high performance and salesmanship like we do in a real estate office. What do you do to rally the troops around like a goal? So if you come into a certain time of year seasonally, I'd imagine Q1 is a really busy time for you with people coming back to work and New Year's resolution, I'm not going back or I'm going to make a move. How do you bring the troops together and rally them towards a common goal?
We talk about long-term really. So we do break it up into the quarters. But so for the first 2 quarters, we've got a goal in mind that we want to reach. And when we do that, we're actually going to, because we all do get along, we actually want to go away somewhere for a long weekend. I think we've tipped Margaret River is where we want to be in June. So we're working towards that. But then also sitting with the team and working out what their goals are. So I know one is desperate to buy an apartment before the end of the year. So, I'm like, well, why don't you print that apartment and put that in front of you on your desk? And, whenever you're having a bad day or whenever you're having a win is to cross off how close you are to getting to that apartment. Some are travel. So, what trip are we going to do and how much money do we need to get there? So I think it's really working out what their goal is and then how the business is going to be a driver to allow them to reach their goal.
So that driving mechanism will then help you create the habits and rituals and accountability, I guess, and there's nothing wrong with accountability, around the team that you need to get to your goals and for them to get to their goals.
Yeah, well, we're not going to get to our common goal and they're not going to get to their goal if we don't do what we've got to do. So we whip every morning. We talk about what's going to happen that day and what everybody's working on. We catch up on a Tuesday. We talk about what roles we've got, what candidates we've got, where we're going to put them. Then we're just also very open. We celebrate each other's wins massively as well. And I think that's a huge driving force of, when someone does a placement, it goes out to the team and then the entire team writes back. So I think really celebrating wins. And then just looking at the goals as the business and individually, because everyone's an individual performer when it comes to it. Yes, we are a team and we work collaboratively, but the same as in sales, you've got to reach for your own goals.
And who's helped you shaped your leadership journey? Like, who's been a mentor for you, or who's made you the leader that you are?
I've got a very close-knit girlfriend group. We catch up all the time, majority of CEOs and business owners of real estate offices. So we catch up on a regular basis. We've got our own WhatsApp chat where anything that's going on, we pop on there. And I think a lot of the time having a group like that as well is sometimes it's like having your own boardroom where you can just voice, you could throw an idea out there. People will give you honest feedback. So I've done that. I've also done, I've worked one-on-one with mentors over the years. And for me as well, in recruitment, I belong to a boardroom of people, individual business owners from different sectors where we come together once a quarter and talk about things that are going on in our business. Because leadership can sometimes be lonely if you don't have a lot of other people around you in that same position. So I think you've got to put yourself in situations where you're around other people in your situation where you could talk about what's working, what's not working. I think at the moment as well with AI, there's so much noise and so many different programs being thrown at you all the time. It's like a new shiny toy that you want to explore. Whereas I think to go and have this boardroom where you all sit around and some of them have tried it or seen it, I think you've just got to have that, you've got to have that network of peers that are very similar to you, where you come together in a really safe space and talk about what's going on in your business. Because everybody's got an idea of, they may have had something happen or they're going through something similar. And it's always great to be able to come together on those quarter bases and just talk about what our challenges are and what our wins are. And just, am I doing everything right? Is my business kind of similar to yours, or is it just me? Yeah. And sometimes you need that because we all get a little bit of imposter syndrome from time to time where we're not sure how we stack up against others. So I think to put yourself into some group environments with other business owners is a perfect way to do it.
And Virginia, I'm really curious with your leadership experience and dealing with agents, because we're not an easy industry, like dealing with salespeople sometimes. It's quite funny because we always want people to pay our fee, but then when we're dealing with a recruiter, we always want to screw you on fee generally. So there's a bit to be taken out there, I think, listeners. You pay for what you get. How do you lean into conflict, or how do you handle conflict as a leader, and any advice around it?
I confront it head on. So I'm not one of these people. I'm very black and white. So you always know where you stand. And conflict, I have no problem. I don't think we need to get abusive, and I've been abused plenty of times by people when there's conflict. I think you just need to be strong. You need to be able to present your case, and don't hide behind it, because conflict when you hide is awful. And as a leader as well, I always say to my team when it comes to conflict within the team is you guys have got to sort it out amongst yourselves, because if I've got to get involved, chances are we're not going to get the outcome that either want. So I always self-empower the team that if they've got a problem with someone, to maybe go for a coffee or go for a walk and have that out. But when it comes to recruitment fees, I have nothing worse than someone signing your fee and then after you have done the job, then they want to negotiate. But it's always just having that conversation. And not being nasty and making it personal. Conflict is conflict, and we've all got it every day. And
business is business. It shouldn't 100%. Be personal. Great advice. Let's get some more advice. How do you create empathy with your team as a leader without it being sympathy?
No, on that one. Empathy. Well, I think empathy, you've got to understand somebody's situation. Empathy is understanding people's drivers. Empathy is not getting into a bitch session with someone about something that's gone wrong. And I think property managers are probably some of the best when it comes to empathy and sympathy. Is you've got to be able to listen to what somebody has to say, and you need to be empathetic to their situation. But a situation is a situation, right? Sometimes we've got laws around it, we've got rules around it. So you can be sympathetic, but you're better off to be empathetic and sort the problem out rationally. I think when you give somebody too much sympathy, bad decisions are made.
Yes, and savior leadership can come in, right? We don't have to save everybody. It's okay to be, a taker sometimes too. And I think it's making decisions as a leader on on fact, not emotion, is really important. Do you see that a lot in our industry where people are having conversations with you or come highly emotive rather than on the facts?
Oh, absolutely. Because we're dealing with people and we're dealing with businesses. And, you know, I again had somebody this week talk to me about resigning. And this happened to me when I was leaving real estate. My last principal, when I left, didn't talk to me for 2.5 weeks because I was leaving, and to the point would even leave the room when I walked into it. And I'm seeing that a lot at the moment. People just take it so personally, and it's business.
I think so. Probably I can hear some of my principals ringing me after this going, yeah, but Carls, I've invested X, Y, and Z, you know, years into them and this amount of money. And we've all been there. I've been pissed off when some people have left too in previous roles. But what I would say is the pub test. Have a look in the mirror. Did you do everything that you could have done? Right? Was there training what it was supposed to be? Was there learning and development what it's supposed to be? Did you turn up for every one-on-one? Did you give them those coaching sessions you promised them at the cafe when you met them for a coffee, when you recruited them? Did you review their pay fairly? Did you know their kids' names? Did you know their partners' names? And I think if you have done everything you could have done, it's hard not to take it personally. But what I'd be saying is a lot of the time, I actually think people are a little bit annoyed with themselves, that in some situations they probably could have done more.
Probably yes and no, but sometimes people just leave because of circumstances.
Personal circumstance.
And I think that it is very hard not to take it personally, and I get it. But sometimes I've seen resignations done beautifully where people have then gone back in 2 years' time.
How you leave someone is how you find someone next time. And I don't think people always think that, you know, well, everyone thinks the grass is greener, and then they go and experience and they might want to come back. Now, whether or not you've got an ethos, whether you take people back or not, which is something else in our industry that is quite widely fostered. Well, if they can't, you know, they won't get another chance here. What I'd be saying about that is sometimes you need to let people go, experience the world and other places, and you'll get back a better version of them, and you might be a better version of yourself as a leader as well.
100%. Don't ever shut a door. Don't ever shut a door. And I think that we talk to people about doing the right thing when they resign, and don't burn bridges. You know, don't just sit there and do nothing for the 2 weeks of your notice period.
Be adults.
Bitching about everybody. Yeah, be adults. Yeah, be grown-ups, which sometimes I don't think we're particularly good at in this industry. Because I've actually seen this year a couple of people go back from places that they left 3 or 4 years ago.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, it does. But if you handle that resignation well and you part amicably as human beings, that's when it works well. If you don't speak to somebody for 3 weeks before they go and then you ignore them and you make them feel pretty terrible about themselves, all you're doing is reiterating why they're resigning too. But I think people need to be more mindful of just exiting gracefully, because as graceful as it can be, they can come back. They might be a huge performer in your business in 4 or 5 years' time. So just be grown-ups about it. Absolutely
be grown-ups about it. Have a conversation. Amazing things happen when you talk.
Yeah.
Virginia, there would be, I'd imagine, some companies that if you say to candidates, X, Y, and Z has got a position going, that they're, yes, I'm in. Now, we're not going to talk about those brands. We'd love to, but we don't want to offend anybody. But there are some people out there that are attraction business because, you know, they're level 5 leaders. They just do the right thing by the people. They have a great culture. What do those businesses and leaders look like?
There's strong leaders who have low staff turnover, because believe it or not, there's a thing out there called LinkedIn where you can see how many people have left a business. And people look at that because they don't want to be in and out. They're successful businesses, and I think businesses that invest in their people do look on social media to see what events are being done, what training is being done, because a lot of the good companies are very good. I'm thinking of a particular office I deal with in Sydney who spend a lot of time with their team, and they put that all over socials as well. So everybody knows exactly what they're doing with their team. So I think it's, and being a good human, people will ask around about offices as well. So I think the offices that people are attracted to have great branding, great marketing, great staff retention, and invest back into their people.
Virginia,
and with social these days, it's pretty easy to find that.
What are you listening to at the moment, or what's a must-read book for developing leaders?
Oh, again, I got put onto these books by a principal. Is it 5 Lessons of Leadership with
5 Levels of Leadership, or 5 Lessons?
5 Lessons, Humble, Hungry, Smart. I'm just trying to think who the author is of those books.
Hungry, Humble, Smart is just something that I use all the time because it sounds funny, but you can get hungry and humble, but then smart can sometimes be an interesting characteristic to recruit for. But if someone can hold a conversation, eye contact, they're calm, they're responsive, all those things that we look for in a good agent, I think when you're recruiting are incredibly important. But I often say to Virginia, to leaders, pitch for people like you pitch for property. So understand their timelines, understand their motivation, get what's important to them. How will they be selecting a agent, the next place that they go to work to? And often when people flip it and think, oh my God, they're my appraisal questions, and I just flip them and take them to the interview, you tend to get a better outcome. And that's where I want to finish with you. Virginia, 2 rock star questions that anyone listening today can apply and take with them into interviews.
You need to understand more about that person. So tell me about yourself outside of the work environment, because I think we're so hell-bent on finding about what they could do for our businesses, where there might be something else straight away that you can gravitate towards to build that relationship with something that they're doing outside of work. I think you need to listen more to what the candidate's saying rather than trying to sell yourself as well. But selling less and listening more, which is the same in a listing presentation, you need to listen more about what their drivers are for leaving a place. Because if you like that candidate and you've really listened to what their key drivers are for what they're looking for, again, you use those in the reverse way to sell them exactly what you're offering, which is exactly what they've told you that they want. So I think listening more.
2 great takeaways. And I know that you're a bookworm and you're a learning worm. I reckon there's another book or another podcast that you want to share with us. Is there something else that you're reading or listening to at the moment?
I've just jumped onto the Mel Robbins Let Them book. I heard all the hype. I thought it's just going to be another hype. It's an easy read, but it's a really interesting read as well. And I think sometimes you've just got to let them. You can't control outcomes for other people. You've just got to let them. So I think it's a good one. It's simplistically written, a very easy read, but I think definitely it's a good read for anybody that just sometimes needs that reminder of you can't control other people, just let them.
What a wonderful place to finish. Control the controllables and remember the spheres of influence. Like next time you're having a leadership crisis or there's something that's keeping you awake at night, is it the circle of control? Can you control it? Is it the circle of influence? Or is it completely outside your control and you're just giving yourself something else to worry about, but you have no influence and you have no control over it? Virginia, thank you so much for being generous with your time today.
Thank you for having me, Kylie. It's lovely to see you as always.
Now, how do people find you? I've got to get the plug in before we go. Talk about less selling, but here we go.
Resolver Recruitment, Virginia Brookes, with an E-S. You'll find me on LinkedIn. You'll find me Facebook. You'll find me Instagram. You'll hear what we're up to. But resolver.com.au is where you'll find me. Temp recruitment and full-time. Try it. If you haven't, she's amazing. Virginia, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Impact and Influence. Click follow to get notified about future episodes. Leaving a review helps others find the podcast. And to learn more about our courses, our study tours, conferences, keynote topics and our services, or how simply we might be able to help support you in taking you to places you never thought possible, please visit regrowthkyliewalsh.com. Impact and Influence, brought to you by Regrowth Consultancy, powered by Flick It Over. Flick It Over is a leading electronic software platform. Flick It Over provides industry-specific solutions to improve process, client experience and efficiencies. Make your document delivery and workflow seamless with Flick It Over.